You won't believe this one. Seriously, this is the kind of story that makes you stop scrolling and say, "Wait, what?" Because today, we're diving deep into something that's got everyone talking. Tyrus just got married, and the identity of his new wife has left fans completely stunned. From former wrestling fans to political followers, no one saw this coming. The internet is buzzing with shock, confusion, and even a bit of controversy, because let's just say, this marriage isn't exactly what people expected. Now, before we get into the wild details of who she is, the hidden connections, and the real story behind how this all happened, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up.
Why?
Because your support isn't just a click. It tells YouTube that you enjoy this kind of deep, exclusive content, and it helps this video reach more people who love real stories behind the headlines, just like you. Plus, when you subscribe, you join a growing community of viewers who love staying ahead of the latest celebrity mysteries, TV drama, and all the behind-the-scenes revelations that others are too afraid to talk about. So, what's really going on with Tyrus's sudden marriage? Is it true love, or something else entirely? Who exactly is this mysterious woman that managed to capture the heart of one of the most outspoken, controversial, and unpredictable personalities in media today? Some say she's a long-time secret partner. Others believe she's someone from his inner circle. Maybe even a familiar face we've seen before. And then there are those wild online theories. And trust me, some of them sound crazier than anything you've heard before. But here's the thing, the truth might actually be stranger than the rumors. We're going to uncover how they met, what's been happening behind the scenes, and the hidden moments that fans completely missed. Moments that reveal a very different side of Tyrus. So grab your drink, sit tight, and don't skip a second, because the last revelation in this video will absolutely leave you speechless. Seriously, it's the kind of twist that changes how you see everything. And when you get to that part, I want you to drop a comment below and tell me, what shocked you the most? Was it who she is, how they met, or the reason they kept it secret for so long? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Now, let's get into the truth behind one of the most unexpected marriages in recent celebrity history. Because this story isn't just about love. It's about power, timing, and a revelation no one saw coming. 1. Early life and rough beginnings. Tyrus, whose real name is George Murdoch, was born on February 21, 1973, in Pasadena, California, and his early life was marked by hardship, instability, and emotional struggle. From the very beginning, his world was far from the kind of childhood that most kids dream of. He grew up in a difficult environment where tension and uncertainty seemed to follow him everywhere. His parents' relationship was rocky, and when things finally fell apart, the breakup had a deep and lasting impact on him. He has spoken openly in later years about how those early experiences of neglect and violence shaped his sense of trust and identity. Tyrus spent part of his childhood moving between homes, never truly feeling like he belonged anywhere. There were periods when he lived in foster care, and other times when he had to rely on distant relatives or temporary guardians. Those years were confusing and painful, but they also built the foundation for his toughness and resilience. Instead of letting bitterness consume him, he developed a fierce determination to rise above his circumstances. As a young boy, he faced bullying, rejection, and moments of deep loneliness, but he learned early that humor and confidence could protect him from the cruelty of others. In many ways, those challenges became his training ground, not for wrestling, but for life. He discovered that his size and presence could make people pay attention, but it was his wit and intelligence that truly set him apart. Despite the chaos around him, he found small moments of hope in school and sports, places where he could channel his energy into something productive. Yet, even as he grew older, the emotional scars from his childhood didn't simply disappear. He often described himself as someone who learned to build emotional walls because trusting people always seemed to lead to disappointment. Still, he never allowed that pain to define him completely. Instead, he carried it as a lesson, a reminder of where he came from and why he could never afford to give up. Looking back, it's clear that Tyrus's early life wasn't just a story of suffering but one of survival. Every difficult moment, every heartbreak, and every move from one unstable situation to another forced him to develop strength, independence, and an unshakable willpower. Those traits would later become the foundation of his larger-than-life persona, the man who could stand tall, face criticism, and still push forward. His beginnings may have been rough, but they gave him the resilience that would carry him through every stage of his unpredictable and fascinating life. 2. Finding his identity and path to wrestling. As Tyrus grew older, he found himself standing at a crossroads, searching for who he truly was and what he wanted his life to mean. Coming from such a chaotic childhood, he didn't have a clear path laid out for him, no easy opportunities, no roadmap for success. What he did have, however, was a powerful drive and an undeniable presence that made him stand out wherever he went. Standing well over 6 feet tall and built like a wall, he always attracted attention, but it took years before he realized how to use that to his advantage. Before fame, Tyrus explored a variety of jobs, from working as a bodyguard to trying his hand at teaching, all while figuring out what direction his life should take. Each job gave him a little more insight into people, and more importantly, into himself. Deep down, though, he always had a love for performance, storytelling, and physical expression. Wrestling, he discovered, was the perfect mix of all three. It wasn't just about fighting in the ring. It was about embodying a character, telling a story, and connecting with people on an emotional level. When he finally decided to pursue professional wrestling, it felt like destiny calling. He began training intensely, learning not just the physical moves but also the psychology and entertainment aspect of the sport. It didn't take long for people to notice that he had something special, a mix of raw power, charisma, and authenticity that couldn't be taught. Eventually, his hard work paid off when he signed with WWE, where he was introduced to the world as Brodus Clay. At first, his character was meant to be intimidating, a fearsome enforcer with a no-nonsense attitude, but in a surprising twist, WWE transformed him into the Funkasaurus, a dancing, fun-loving entertainer dressed in bright colors and accompanied by cheerleaders. While fans loved the humor and energy, Tyrus himself struggled with the image. He appreciated entertaining people but often felt trapped behind a gimmick that didn't reflect his true personality or potential. In interviews, he would later admit that he wanted to be taken seriously, to show the world the depth of who he was, not just a big man who could make people laugh. That period was both rewarding and frustrating for him, as it gave him fame but limited his creative freedom. Behind the scenes, he began questioning his future in wrestling and whether there was a way to reinvent himself beyond the scripted smiles and dance moves. Despite the challenges, the experience taught him valuable lessons about resilience, adaptability, and the power of image. Wrestling gave him the stage he had always dreamed of, but it also reminded him that true identity can't be built on someone else's idea of who you should be. When he finally left WWE, it wasn't out of bitterness but out of a desire to take control of his narrative, to find his real voice, his real purpose, and his real strength. That decision would set the stage for the next, most transformative chapter of his life, one that would take him far beyond the ring and into a whole new arena of influence. 3. Reinvention, media success, and controversies. After stepping away from wrestling, Tyrus began one of the boldest reinventions of his life, transforming himself from a physical performer into a media personality. Many former wrestlers fade into the background after leaving the ring, but Tyrus was determined to prove he was more than just a sports entertainer. He wanted to use his voice, his opinions, and his charisma in a completely different way. That transition started slowly but grew rapidly once he found himself appearing as a guest commentator on Fox News and The Greg Gutfeld Show. His larger-than-life personality and blunt, often humorous takes on current events made him an instant standout. People were surprised. They expected a former wrestler to talk about sports or entertainment, but instead, Tyrus spoke about real issues: politics, culture, responsibility, and even the state of modern masculinity. He didn't use scripts or try to sound polished. He spoke the way people actually talk, with honesty and conviction. That authenticity resonated with many viewers, while others found his opinions too raw or politically charged. Either way, people were talking about him, and in television, that's power. However, as Tyrus's popularity in media grew, so did the controversies surrounding him. In 2019, he was accused by a co-worker at Fox Nation of sending inappropriate messages and making her uncomfortable. The story spread quickly, with tabloids and online outlets jumping on the headlines. It became one of the biggest public challenges of his career. Tyrus denied the allegations and insisted that the situation had been misrepresented, but the damage to his reputation was significant. For a time, it seemed as though the controversy might end his run in media altogether. Yet, in true Tyrus fashion, he refused to disappear. Instead, he doubled down, continued to appear on shows, and used his experiences as talking points about accountability, perception, and resilience in the face of public judgment. This period revealed both his stubbornness and his strength. Even when networks and critics questioned him, his fans stood by him, appreciating his refusal to back down or play the victim. The controversy tested his patience, his professionalism, and even his friendships, but it also solidified his belief that in the world of fame, you can't let others define your story. Around this same time, he continued to grow his presence outside of politics, making appearances at events, writing, and engaging with fans online. He often said that the key to survival in entertainment was reinvention, the ability to adapt without losing who you are. Despite the ups and downs, Tyrus managed to turn the turbulence into momentum. He found a way to mix humor with sharp social commentary, and even his critics couldn't deny that he had carved a unique space for himself in media. By the time the storm of controversy began to fade, Tyrus had once again proved his resilience. He was no longer just the big guy from WWE. He had become a recognizable voice in television, someone unafraid to speak his mind and live with the consequences. That chapter of his life showed that reinvention doesn't come without risk, but for Tyrus, every challenge only made his story more compelling, a story of a man who refused to be limited by anyone's expectations, no matter how loud the criticism got. 4. Personal life, relationships, and hidden struggles. Behind the bold personality that fans see on television and in the wrestling ring, Tyrus has always been a deeply private and complex man when it comes to his personal life. While he often appears confident and outspoken in public, those who know him well say he carries emotional scars from a past filled with instability, betrayal, and heartbreak. Growing up in a broken home made him wary of trust, and that hesitation followed him well into adulthood. He's admitted in interviews that forming close relationships was never easy for him, not because he didn't want love, but because he feared losing it once he finally found it. Over the years, Tyrus has been in several relationships, but he rarely made them public. He learned early that fame brings not only attention but also judgment, and he wanted to protect the people he cared about from that spotlight. Still, he has spoken affectionately about being a father, saying that parenthood changed his outlook on life more than anything else. Having children gave him a sense of purpose that fame and success never could. He became more protective, more reflective, and more determined to break the cycle of pain that had followed him from his childhood. Yet, his journey through relationships hasn't been smooth. The same intensity that makes him such a strong personality on screen also makes him a complicated partner in real life. Tyrus is known to be fiercely loyal, but also extremely guarded, a man who loves deeply but struggles to show vulnerability. This emotional wall, built from years of hurt, often created distance between him and the people closest to him. He has spoken about losing friends along the way, not because of malice, but because fame changed how people treated him. Some saw him as a ticket to exposure. Others simply couldn't handle his strong opinions and sharp humor. Over time, he learned to value quality over quantity when it came to relationships, surrounding himself only with those who accepted him fully, flaws and all. Tyrus has also faced moments of isolation, times when the weight of public life, criticism, and personal expectations felt overwhelming. He's mentioned in interviews that being in the spotlight can be lonely, especially when people assume you're unbreakable. He learned to find peace in solitude, often retreating from the noise of fame to focus on his mental health and self-improvement. Behind the camera, he spends much of his time reading, writing, and reflecting, far from the loud persona that fans see on screen. Over the years, Tyrus began opening up more about these private struggles, especially after publishing his book, where he discussed his fears, regrets, and the lessons he learned through heartbreak. He admitted that emotional growth was a slow and painful process, but also one of the most important parts of his evolution as a man. Through it all, his biggest motivation remained his family, the sense of stability and love he never truly had as a child but worked tirelessly to build as an adult. Today, Tyrus's personal life may still be guarded, but it's clear that behind the strength and sarcasm, there's a man who's fought his entire life to find peace, love, and genuine connection, and who finally seems to be getting closer to it than ever before. 5. Tragedies, growth, and the road to redemption. Throughout his life, Tyrus has faced more than his share of tragedies and turning points, moments that tested his strength not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. Behind the fame and humor that fans see on camera, there were years marked by disappointment, betrayal, and loss. One of the hardest truths he shared is that success never erased the pain of his past, it only gave him new challenges to face under a brighter spotlight. After leaving WWE and stepping into the unpredictable world of media, Tyrus had to rebuild his identity once again, this time without the security of a ring or a script. The controversies that followed him were painful reminders that even when you try to start fresh, the past can come back to test your resolve. He faced waves of criticism, rumors, and moments of isolation that could have easily broken him. But instead of giving up, he chose growth. He began reflecting deeply on his life, where he came from, what he wanted to represent, and how he could turn pain into purpose. That process wasn't easy. There were nights of self-doubt, anger, and even guilt over choices he wished he had made differently. Yet, Tyrus started to understand that redemption doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being honest about your imperfections. One of the key turning points in his journey came when he decided to write his autobiography, Just Tyrus. The book was more than just a career summary, it was a raw confession, a way of facing his own story head-on. He talked openly about growing up in poverty, surviving abuse, and struggling with identity, but he also wrote about forgiveness both of others and of himself. That honesty resonated deeply with readers and showed a side of Tyrus that few had ever seen. Through this process, he reconnected with his humanity, realizing that vulnerability was not weakness but a form of power. The response from fans was overwhelming. People who had faced similar struggles began to see him as a symbol of resilience rather than controversy. Over time, that feedback helped him heal parts of himself he didn't even realize were still wounded. Another defining element in his growth was his role as a father. Being responsible for another life forced him to confront his own demons and become the kind of man he wished he had when he was young. He stopped seeking validation from the public and focused more on living by example, showing that no matter how rough your path has been, you can still rebuild your life with integrity and purpose. Even professionally, he learned to pick his battles and speak with more wisdom. He still remained bold and opinionated, but his tone carried more experience and depth. What's remarkable about Tyrus is that he never tried to rewrite his past to look cleaner or easier. He embraced every scar as part of his truth. In interviews, he often says that life doesn't give you closure, you have to create it yourself. And in many ways, that's what he did. Today, Tyrus stands as someone who has walked through fire and come out stronger, not unburned, but wiser. His road to redemption wasn't about clearing his name or regaining fame. It was about finding peace within himself, proving that even after tragedy, growth is possible, and redemption is always within reach for those who have the courage to face their truth. 6. The new chapter, Tyrus just got married. After decades of fighting battles both in public and in private, Tyrus has entered a completely new and unexpected chapter in his life, one that no one saw coming. Tyrus just got married, and for fans who have followed his journey from the wrestling ring to the TV screen, this news came as a total surprise. Known for keeping his personal life fiercely private, Tyrus has always guarded the details of his relationships, rarely allowing the world a glimpse into his emotional world. But now, it seems that after years of ups and downs, heartbreaks, and lessons learned, he has finally found something that many people spend their entire lives searching for: peace, stability, and true love. What makes this chapter even more fascinating is who he chose to marry. While speculation spread quickly online, sources close to him describe his new wife as someone who's been quietly by his side for years, long before the fame and controversies. She isn't a celebrity or a public figure. She's someone from his personal circle, someone who truly knows the man behind the strong persona. Their connection reportedly began when Tyrus was going through one of the toughest times of his career, and instead of judging him or running away, she stood by him, offering understanding and genuine support. That kind of loyalty, something he's always valued deeply, became the foundation of their relationship. Over time, their bond grew stronger, but they chose to keep it out of the public eye to avoid unnecessary media attention. This marriage isn't just a headline for him, it's a symbol of growth, healing, and emotional maturity. For a man who has built walls his entire life, letting someone in completely marks a profound transformation. Those who know Tyrus personally say that marriage has brought out a softer side of him, one that values quiet moments, family dinners, and laughter over fame or recognition. It's a chapter defined by gratitude and reflection. After so many years of struggle, loss, and reinvention, Tyrus seems to have found balance. His recent interviews show a man more at peace with himself, someone who finally understands that real strength isn't about fighting everyone or proving a point, it's about finding the courage to be vulnerable and to love without fear. For fans, this new chapter is both shocking and heartwarming. Many are used to seeing him as the outspoken commentator or the tough wrestler who always speaks his mind, but now they're seeing a man who has evolved, someone who can be fierce and tender at the same time. His marriage is a reminder that redemption isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes, it's about finding joy in the simple things: companionship, trust, and shared dreams. It's a story of a man who walked through chaos and came out on the other side, not just surviving but thriving. As Tyrus begins this new phase of his life, It's clear that his greatest victory isn't in the ring or on television, it's in finally finding a love that feels real, grounding, and lasting. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. The man who once seemed larger than life has found happiness in something beautifully human, proving that even the strongest among us are capable of new beginnings and unexpected love stories. And there you have it, the incredible, unexpected new chapter in the life of Tyrus. After everything he's been through, the struggles, the controversies, the reinventions, it's inspiring to see him finally find peace, love, and a sense of purpose. But now I want to hear from you. What part of Tyrus's story surprised you the most? Was it his tough beginnings, his rise in wrestling, or the shocking reveal of who he married? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. And if you enjoyed this deep look into his life, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It may seem like a small gesture, but it makes a huge difference. Every like and every subscription helps YouTube know that you love this kind of real, story-driven content, and it allows us to keep bringing you more powerful and emotional stories like this one. So go ahead, click subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and stay tuned because the next story might just shock you even more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.